All right. Today's chapter is a short one, so we'll go through it, but it actually is a very fundamental one. This, by the way, is a means of introduction. My name is Eli Backman. I've been the Chabad Shliach at the University of Maryland since 1995. For those who we haven't had a chance to meet yet in person. So we're continuing along our journey through the Rambam. And Hilchos Deos, the Rambam talks about things which are not necessarily what you would call classic halacha, although many of the mitzvot and avayot that he does talk about at the beginning, we're going to get to more in depth in the later parakim. Here he's still talking about more the development, the dispositions, the temperaments. And as we finished Perek Beis yesterday, the Rambam was talking about how you have to find the middle path, and certain things, anger, you should have completely the other extreme from it. But ultimately speaking, you should kind of find the middle path, because anger and honor and jealousy and taiva, temptations, can actually destroy you. So here's where we start Perek Gimel and continuing that idea, that thought, with a fundamental idea in Yiddishkeit and Judaism in general. Let's go Perek Shlishi, Halacha Aleph. Shemer Yomer Ha'adam, perhaps a person will say, since I just told you that jealousy and taivas is temptations, the covet and honor, and similar things to that, they're the bad path to go on. It'll take the person out of the world, it will cause a person, it will drive a person from being able to live in the world, because you can be so busy, caught up in your own things, your temptations, your honor, your anger, etc., that you won't be able to be a functioning citizen of the world. Efresh mehem b'yoser. Let me separate Efresh mehem b'yoser v'zrachik l'sad ha'achrein. Let me separate from them and go completely to the other side. I won't eat any meat at all, and I won't drink any wine. And I won't get married. And I won't sit in a comfortable house. And I won't put on presentable clothing. I'll put on a bag, like a sackcloth, and a coarse wool, and similar things. In other words, I will become someone who will remove themselves from everything within the world. And I no longer will have to deal with these temptations and dishonor and all the rest, because I will have removed myself to the extreme. So he continues, for example, like the priest of idolatry, the idolatrous priest or pagan priest who live that way. They live a life of celibacy. They live a life of running away from everything. But the Rambam continues, no, you missed the message. This too is a bad path to take, and you are forbidden to follow this path. Interesting footnote, by the way, in some of the earlier or the other editions, the manuscripts, it doesn't say Kohane Oivde Kechavim Mazolos, it says Kohane Edoim, Edoim being Rome, that perhaps the Rambam was actually referencing Catholic priests and actual celibacy, etc. But in any event, this concept of saying, since these things may cause me issues, I should run from them completely to the other extreme, is a bad path. And the Rambam continues, someone who follows this path, Nikra Chait, is called a sinner. Because we find that the pasuk tells us by a nazir. A nazir is a person, obviously, who is not allowed to cut his hair. He makes an oath of a Nazirite oath, and he says, I won't cut my hair and I won't become impure to a dead body, and I won't drink wine. And when the Gemara, the pasuk says, that when he finishes his period of Nazirite, whether 30 days, a year, whatever the period of time, the duration it was, he has to bring, the pasuk says, the verse tells us, a carbon chatas, a sin offering. The Gemara says, Amr Chachamim, the sages teach us, what if a Nazir who only separated himself from wine needs to have atonement, a sin offering? Someone who withholds from himself, he abstains from anything else, for certainly he has sinned. Therefore, see the Chachamim have commanded us that a person should not abstain from things except for the items which the Torah has prohibited. He should not go ahead and prohibit upon himself through an oath or a vow things which are allowed to him. They continued and they said, it's not, is it not enough what Torah prohibited upon you? But you will also prohibit upon yourself other things. The Rambam continues in this general statement, those who are fasting constantly, even as they're seemingly doing it for the reasons of wanting to be holy or pure, it's not the right way. For us, through Chachamim, the Chachamim forbid, the sages forbid, that a person should not hurt himself, if you wish, through a fast. And all of the things of this nature. We see that Shlomo HaMelech Solomon said, don't be overly righteous, and don't be overly smart, and which will make yourself Tishayim is kind of quiet or desolate or not able to speak. In other words, don't lose yourself in the process of thinking you're smarter than everyone and fasting more, forbidding more, prohibiting more upon yourself. That's not the Torah's way. The Torah's way is not to run away and hide, and not asceticism, as we say, but the Torah's way is to allow and to use whatever Hashem gives us in the world to use. When Hashem says something's forbidden, that's forbidden. Halacha base. So now that I just told you that you shouldn't run away from everything in the world, so how do you bank that balance? How do you make sure that the things in the world are not drawing you aside after temptation and jealousy, etc., but are keeping you balanced to do the proper things? And the Rambam continues that the person has to have in mind, kavanah, he has to think and have in mind that all of his acts, all of them, Leidas Hashem Baruch Hu Bavad, are being done in order to know Hashem, in order for Hashem's glory, if you wish. The Yeshifta v'kumra v'dipura, and is waking up and is lying down, and the way he sits, the way he speaks, everything, the Ummah Za'adam is directed and focused on this end, the end being for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for Hashem. Kate said, how is this possible? What does this mean? When a person does business, or he works, so he does any other kind of job, in order to make a wage, in order to make a salary, his mindset should not be just to get more and more money. So why is he doing these things? In order that he'll have what he needs for his body, for his physical life, to survive. Machila, shia, to eat, and to drink, yeshivas bayis, and to have a house, a roof over your head, when it sees isha, to get married. And if a person eats or he drinks or when he has a physical relations, he should not think in his mind that he's doing this only because of pleasure. That turns out that he only will eat things that taste good. And he will only have relations with his wife or with his spouse in order for pleasure. You shouldn't be doing it just for pleasure, because then you're only going to do it at a time of pleasure and a time of sweetness of the food and tasting good. You should understand. You're eating and you're drinking in order to be healthy, to take care of your body, your limbs, etc. Therefore, you won't eat everything that your taste buds, if you wish, your palate tells you, that tastes good, go eat it. Like a dog or like a donkey. In other words, you won't run after any taste or any food. You'll eat items which are good for the body. They're beneficial. Whether they're bitter, whether they're sweet. Because you're not focused just on the pleasure, you're focused on the value And the value could be sometimes something that doesn't taste well, or taste sweet, or taste good, still is a value for you to eat. And a person therefore won't eat things which are not good, things which are harmful for the body, even though they taste good. Now, perhaps if you can find a way to apply this into your daily diet, we won't have all the yo-yo dieting that go on, and we'll be able to focus. But I'll leave that for everyone to figure out how to apply it. Case of the Rambam continues, if someone has a warm constitution, a warm disposition, should not eat meat or honey. Should not drink wine. Like King Solomon says, if you eat much honey, a lot of honey, that's no good. Ocean, and you should drink, I see in the translations as endive juice. Avabishumar, it's bitter. But he's eating and drinking this endive juice, and he's not eating and drinking the other things. Why? It's a means of help, of a healing for the body. Then you should be able to get up and stand strong and stand whole and healthy. A person cannot survive without eating and drinking. But what you're eating and drinking should be things which are beneficial to the body and not be things that are harmful, even if at the moment that you're a moment of gratification, they taste good. Nonetheless, you should see a bigger picture, and you should be able to realize why you're eating and know therefore what you're eating. The same thing when you have physical intimacy and relations. You should have them in order to keep your body healthy. In order to have children and offspring. In the sense that you're doing this for a greater purpose. One is for your physical body's health, and the other is to continue the human race. Therefore, you will not have relations because at any moment when you have a desire. At any time that he knows that it's a need, it's a real need, in order to have this relations and the seminal emissions, at the time of health, when it's good for him, it'll be healthy for his body to have these relations, and or the time when it'll be to preserve the human race to have children. In other words, there's something greater. It doesn't mean that you can't, in a sense, enjoy the moment or enjoy the food you're eating, but you're focusing on when and where and why on a greater and a bigger picture. Kibbel, the Rambam continues in the next halacha. Hamani atzmi al pi refuah. And a person who goes ahead and accustoms himself to live by rules of the medicine. So then, and then he focuses himself that his body should be healthy, his entire body should be healthy. And he wants to have children in order that the children will take over his job, they'll work for him, for his needs. This is not a good way. In other words, even within the path we just told you to do it when it's beneficial to you for health, your thought process shouldn't just be focused on self. You shouldn't just be that I'm eating it in order that I should be the strongest in the room, or I'm having children in order that my children should be there to serve me. So what should you pay attention to? What should you focus on? That your body should be healthy and strong. Why? That your neshama should be able to be clear and straight in its knowledge of Hashem. It's impossible to understand, to comprehend knowledge and wisdoms. If someone's hungry or someone's sick, when you are able to take care of yourself, then you can have a clear head. You can sit down and learn. You can understand. You can focus on the relationship you have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Hashem. But if you're sick or if you're hungry, then you're focusing on that. Or the same thing if one of your limbs or one of your body parts is hurting you. You're not able to then go what you know you need to do. Perhaps focus on why do you want to have a child? Maybe there'll be a great wise sage or a great leader in amongst Bnei Israel in the future. In other words, number one, Don't take the asceticism and become celibate and go too far. That's not the Torah way, that's a bad path. Number two, start focusing on what's good and healthy for you, even if it doesn't taste good, even if it's bitter. But if it's what you need to eat, eat it for the health. And now he's going a step further, that even when you're having good health, don't focus the health just on self. Don't focus the children just on your needs. It's not all about what's in it for me, but focus on Hashem. Focus on the future of Bnei Israel. Focus on what you can accomplish when you have good health. You can learn, you can daven, you can be there for others, etc. Nimsa, so we find that a person who follows this path is always, constantly serving Hashem. Even while doing business. And even during the time when he's having relations. Why is that? Because when he's doing them, his mindset at that moment, that he's doing these actions, these needs of his, business, relations, eating, whatever the needs are, in order that his body should be as healthy as it can be, in order to serve Hashem. And even when he's sleeping, if he's lying down to sleep in order that he should be able to have a rested body, in order that your body should not get sick. And then he won't be able to serve Hashem if he's sick. So why am I sleeping? I'm sleeping to have energy, to have a rested body that's healthy. And then I can wake up in the morning and go serve Hashem. So you find that the Shena Shaloi, even in sleeping, Avodah L'Hamakim Baruch Hu is an Avodah, is a service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Hashem. So now we've taken it further, that you're focusing not on self, but you're focusing on Hashem. And therefore, every single thing you do, if you have that mindset, is no longer just physical, is no longer just part of living in a physical world, but it itself has become transformed into part of a spiritual lifestyle, one which will allow you to constantly be connected to Hashem. And you're not, so to say, as the old expression used to be, a Jew in the street and a Jew at home, or a businessman at work and a Jew in the home, or whatever the distinctions that we sometimes make. We make this dichotomy between when I'm doing something physical, it's for my physical side, I'm working for the work, for the world. But the Rambam saying, no, if you have the right intention while you're doing it, in order to continually give you the rest you need, the food you need, you not to be sick, to have the roof over your head, to have the money, to have children for Torah, and all of that beautiful things, and all of that is already part of your service to Hashem. And the Rambam finishes with a beautiful idea. Regarding this, the Chachamim have commanded and shared with us that, and they said, that all your deeds, all your actions should be for the sake of heaven. And he continues, and this is what Shlomo says in his wisdom, in all your ways will you know Hashem, and he will yasha, straighten your pathways as you go. And the commentaries, the Rebbe points out that it's a beautiful insight here at the end, because on one hand, the Rambam starts with V'chol Ma'asecha Yivul L'Shem Shamayim, and then he goes V'chol Derechecha Do'ehu. Number one, V'chol Derechecha Do'ehu is a pasuk. It's a verse from King Solomon. It should have been said before the other one, which is a quote in the Gemara. But the Rebbe explains that it's really the step up in the ladder we've been talking about. When I say V'chol Ma'asecha Yivul L'Shem Shamayim, what I'm saying that all of my actions, they're still my actions. It's still my job. It's still my life. It's still my marriage. It's still my food. It's me. It's my actions. But I'm doing it l'shem shamayim. I'm doing it for the sake, for the focus of Hashem. But then you can even reach a higher level, where Shlomo Melech says, "B'chol derechecha do'ehu," not that you're ma'asecha, and now you're making them holy, or not that ma'asecha, you're going to go ahead and take the energy and do something holy, but there's still a split between them. But b'chol derechecha, in all of your ways, do'ehu, you find Hashem. There's no longer separation. There's no dichotomy between the two of them. There's nothing dividing them. The acts are not your acts which can become holy. The acts themselves are pure holiness. You'll find Hashem, you'll know Hashem within each step of the way. And so this parak, which we just finished, while Rambam brings in Hilchos Deis, was in the context of your character development and how to relate to the world and not to go to the extremes of running away from the world and living that celibate ascetic lifestyle. The Rambam is really teaching us a brilliant insight into Yiddishkeit as a whole, something that Chassidus as well spends a lot of time explaining, how you can reach the point, it's kind of a process, where you realize that you're physically in the world to do physical things, but really those physical things themselves are spiritual. And at the moment you're able to reach that level, like Shlomo says, Hashem will yashar chaytzacha, He'll straighten your path, He'll make you, everything will go well, because you are constantly in one connection, a yichud, a connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu throughout everything you do throughout the day. And with that, we finish the third parak and today's quota. Thank you all for joining. If there's any questions, you're welcome.